weeks ago I was talking with George, who had just come back from a Great Vow Monastery at the Ancient Way session, which was, I think it was 10-day session. He said that all of the Dharma talks were about thoughts. And I thought, wow, it's a pretty focused set of talks, isn't it? And I remember that several of the times that I attended sesshin at Great Vow, Chosen Roshi would say, thinking is optional. Thinking is optional. I thought, wow, that's profound. So when is thinking optional? Is thinking optional? I mean, thinking is pretty continuous most of the time. I mean, there's so often a story, a narrative going on inside, a dialogue or a monologue, all about everything. So how can that be optional? When can that be optional? When is it necessary? So, in Zazen, of course, it's the attempt is to release the thoughts, to let them go, because thinking is not going to get us to awakening, to liberation. Thinking so often keeps us wound up in our own habitual habits of worry and anxiety and dreaming and desire. But it's not so easy just to stop thinking. Of course, it's really difficult. And Dogen Zenji talked about an encounter between a student and a teacher, and the student said, "Master, what are you thinking about sitting so still and so steadfast?" And the teacher said, "Not thinking." And the student said, How do you think about not thinking?" And the teacher said, "Non-thinking." And Dogen explained that thoughts come continuously. Thoughts. Others have said, thoughts are a secretion of the brain. This is Uchiyama Roji saying. The brain secretes thoughts, just like our glands secrete, enzymes and hormones and stuff. It just happens all the time. That's what the brain does. It's a survival thing. But we don't want, the practitioner doesn't want to get caught up in that or stay in that ongoing, continuous dynamic that has happened since one's life began. Well, since one learned words anyway. So, this non-thinking is being aware of thoughts arising, and when one's practicing and becomes aware that thoughts are happening, then they're let go. And that's non-thinking. One doesn't indulge in the thoughts and follow them down the rabbit hole and down the merry chase of wherever it's going. But just let it go again and again and again. And that's non-thinking, and then Zazen, thinking is optional. And then, Kenyan, thinking is optional also. And I think one thing Chosen was pointing at is that thinking is optional off the cushion, and so much of the time, right? When the service is done and we go to the kitchen and we can just have a cookie and, smile and just it doesn't require deep thought or pondering and worrying. If we're on the walk or the bicycle ride or the drive home, thinking is optional. We know the way home. It's not something we have to ponder or worry about. We can just do it and not be thinking and instead continue the practice. And washing dishes, or cleaning house or walking the dog. Going shopping, if we have a shopping list, we can just go down the aisles, pick up the thing, go up, pay for it, smile at people. Thinking is optional in so many circumstances of our life. And practicing that can disrupt the habitual habit of always got to be thinking, always got to be figuring out, always got to be planning, always got to be really reliving a conversation that just happened. How did I do with that? Did I really say everything I wanted to say? Why did I say what I said? We can let go of those, those personal demons and choose the option of not thinking, in which one is just present in the world, in the fresh air, in the colorful leaves of the autumn, the lovely slant of the sunshine in the afternoon, illuminating those yellow banks of maple trees that are getting ready to drop those leaves. And yet it's really quite difficult, it's quite challenging to practice non-thinking, on the cushion or off the cushion. It's so ingrained, such a strong habit, such a strong desire, impulse to be thinking and remembering and so forth. And that's why Sogen wrote a book, you may know, How to Tame a Wild Elephant. Yes, the thought process of the mind of constantly just surging off to this thought and trampling over here to that memory and trumpeting and charging over to this plan. I mean, it's like a wild elephant. How does one train that? And she's got 52 practices, one for each week, and we can practice not thinking and letting go of all of that chaos that happens so often in our head. But then again, when is thinking useful? And Sogen admits that there are times when thinking is useful. She mentioned balancing a checkbook. And there's things like, making a doctor's appointment, making a call for that. Planning a dinner. How many people? What am I going to make? Do I have all the ingredients? Maybe participating in a Tuesday evening Dharma discussion. There's a certain amount of thinking required there. It's also nice to practice non-thinking from time to time in those discussions. Just absorb it. Attending a board meeting. That requires thinking, doesn't it? It does. Yes, it does. Studying for a class, many of you are doing that. Or doing your job at work. I know that co-workers and supervisors really appreciate it when you are thinking at work. They consider that a plus. But there's also some thinking that's useful that does happen on the cushion. And one type of that thinking is regarding studying the self. Studying the self is a really primary activity in Zazen, because unless the self is known very well and able to be seen through and see one's habits and drives and desires and obsessions. It's very difficult to not think, because until one realizes, oh, I'm doing that again. Really think about what you think about. Think about what one is doing on the cushion all the time. Without thinking about that, reflecting, and then actually there's an insight that comes that's not about thought. It's just about a realization. That. Okay. I don't need to do that. I'm going to do this instead. And there's also some pretty useful thoughts that can deserve paying attention to, that are about one's life, one's direction, one's happiness or suffering. What is my life? What is freedom from suffering? Is that possible for me? What's awakening? What's liberation? Could that happen to me in my life? These are thoughts that are worth paying attention to. Looking into them deeply for oneself. The thought of awakening. The thought that it's possible for oneself, just as it was possible for Shakyamuni Buddha, just as it was possible for Siddhartha Gautama, that prince of northern India who left it all behind. That thought of awakening, the possibility that can turn into the aspiration of awakening. It can turn into bodhicitta. Chitta, it's the mind. Bodhi, awakening. The mind of awakening comes, that seed is planted with the thought about awakening. And then it turns into something that is a driver. It's an intention. It's a wish. It's a puzzle it's a koan. Can't be let go. Keeps coming up. Bodhicitta, the mind that it's aimed at awakening or enlightenment through wisdom and compassion. Those are skillful means to approach awakening. Awakening for the sake of all beings. Not just for oneself, but for everyone. What a possibility that is. And what is a deed? If the thought of awakening leads to the aspiration of awakening, which leads to cultivation of wisdom and compassion for the liberation of all beings, what's a deed? A dictionary defined it as an action that is performed intentionally or consciously. So often the thoughts that we have are not intentional. They're not conscious. They're conscious, but they're not intentional. They're really kind of story, the loop. It's a choice to take a breath, settle in, or if you're riding a bike, relax and pedal some more, just there. An action that's performed intentionally or consciously. We have a number of bodhisattva archetypes in Mahayana Buddhism. There's Manjushri, the bodhisattva of wisdom. There's Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of compassion. And there's Samantabhadra bodhisattva, the bodhisattva of enlightening activity. These are all faces of ourselves. We all have wisdom. We all have compassion and love and loving kindness to various degrees under various circumstances. And we all have the capacity for enlightening activity for ourselves and for all beings. Taking action consciously, intentionally, for the benefit of ourselves and others. We have a chant in the chant book. It's called the 5 Remembrances. And remembrance number 5 is that my deeds are my closest companions. I'm the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. My deeds are my closest companions. I was thinking about that, and it reminded me of something. I think it's Sogen Sensei. He does parts work. Parts work. This is like parts of our personality. You know, the inner child, or the old man, or the guy that likes to walk his dog, or the fellow who likes to work with tools and fix the cars. I mean, there's, some people like to dance, some people like to do art, we like to cook. There's all these different aspects, these different parts of us. And I think that those parts form up in some mix of emotions and memories that are kind of around different activities that we do, I have like hundreds of memories of building things and fixing things and stuff, and I'm a tool guy, and I have many experiences of activities in the Sangha, or in my home practice, or in sessions someplace. I'm a parent. I've spent countless hours taking care of my children, and the dog, and my wife. I'm a family man. Those senses of myself are formulated by these experiences, and they're in me. They're so much closer to me than Cara and Michelle. It's me. And that is true of the Dharma deeds that we do as well. They become part of us. They're a section of my life, a section of your life can be, the deeds, if your closest companion. I'm the beneficiary of my deeds. doesn't seem like that's always true. You know, some of the stuff that I've had to do with my kids doesn't feel all that much like it was, benefited me that well, except that it maybe helped take care of them in some ways. But Dogen says beneficial action, and these are the kind of deeds that Samantabhadra does, enlightening activity, beneficial action, is skillfully to benefit all classes of sentient beings. That is, to take care of their distant or near future, take care of what might happen to them some time from now, or something that might happen to them in the next minute, and to help them by using skillful means. It could be speech, it could be action, it could be cooking, laughter, dance. Beneficial action is an act of oneness, benefiting self and others together. Thus, benefit friend and enemy equally. Benefit self and others alike. This is Dogen's teaching. Action for others benefits oneself. And then there's the phrase, my deeds are the ground on which I stand. How is that? Well, one way that is that, deeds create, they're creative, and then one thing they create is an experience, personal experience of what's most fundamental to being. What's most fundamental? What's the ground of being? Deeds that are expressions of vow. Beings are numberless. Dharma gates are boundless. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to enter them all. It's most fundamental. And deeds, actions, realize those things. They make them real. It's like a velveteen rabbit became real after the child loved it to pieces. Makes it real. Deeds as expressions of intention, and deeds as expressions of wisdom and compassion. How does one enact wisdom? How does one enact compassion, loving kindness, equanimity, sympathetic joy? And in enacting those, one makes them real as a part of one's direct experience of what's most fundamental, as part of the ground on which one stands. So in our practice, in our lineage, sitting zazen is the most fundamental practice. It's the most basic activity that we do. Dogen, so Shakyamuni Buddha said, all beings have Buddha nature. So it's, we could talk quite a bit about what is Buddha nature, but it's actually, if we just take the sort of self-explanatory term, Buddha, nature. All beings have something of the nature of Buddha. And in basic terms, wisdom and compassion is always a nice summary of Buddha's approach. We all have Buddha nature, says Shakyamuni Buddha. Dogen, being the unique creative linguist and mystic that he was, reinterpreted that. He said, all beings are Buddha nature. So there's a difference. All beings, all things are Buddha nature. The podium, the screens, the lights, the carpet, it's all Buddha nature. All of us in here are Buddha nature. We are Buddha nature. All the thoughts going through our heads are Buddha nature. All the words coming out of our mouth. Everything is Buddha nature. And he taught that Zazen is not a means to enlightenment. It's not a means to getting Buddha nature, because we all are Buddha nature already. And from the beginning, the activity of Zazen is the activity of practice enlightenment. Because all beings are Buddha nature. All are enlightened from the beginning, rather covered up by all this dust and mud of, personality and thinking and so forth. And, wholehearted activity, wholehearted Zazen is the activity of Buddha nature. So when we practice non-thinking, letting go of thoughts each time it comes up, letting it go. We practice seeing into our habits of mind, our emotional reflexes and reactivities, our endless loops, repeating loops, thoughts and fantasies. We see all that. Let it go, then that's the activity of Buddha nature. Concentrating on present moment awareness. Right here, it's visceral. It's a body experience. We're not thinking about, there's lights on the wall, these people are looking at me. We're experiencing it directly. And another Zazen activity, practice, action, it's letting go of thoughts and being in the present moment and aligning with impermanence. The flow of impermanence is continuous. Inside and outside. And impermanence, I believe, is part of Buddha nature. In the chant book we have Hakuin's Song of Zazen. And in part it says that observing the precepts, repentance and giving, like we do in Fusatsu and in Dana. The countless good deeds and the way of right living all come from Zazen. All come from this activity of steadfastly sitting, letting go of delusion and being present with what is. Observing the precepts, the three pure precepts. Don't do harm. do good. Do good for others. This is a description not of thoughts. This is a description of deeds, of samantabhadra activity. Refrain from harm, do good for others. And the 10 great precepts, those are deeds. Don't kill, cherish all life. Don't lie, speak the truth. Don't indulge anger, look for its source. Investigate that. The countless good deeds and the way of right living all come from Zazen. The countless good deeds in a life of practice, such as driving a friend to a doctor's appointment, giving food to the food bank, practicing kind speech, coming here to Sangha Jewel to practice together. This is a deed, this is a choice. You could have stayed home. Building a fence to enclose the emergency supply box. Cleaning the Zen Center, weeding the grounds. Participating in silent protests down at the courthouse. Voting. All deeds. All beneficial deeds. Thinking optional. Entering the marketplace is a image in Zen. Entering the marketplace without thoughts, with a heart-mind of wisdom, compassion, and loving kindness, is a deed that benefits everyone that's encountered, and beyond everyone that's encountered is also benefited, because it benefits the people they encounter. All such wholesome deeds are our closest companions, are beneficial to all, and are the ground on which the Dharma life stands. Thank you all for your Dharma practice.
The 4 great Bodhisattva vows can be found on page 5 of the chant book.